A surprising twist this morning in Melbourne's hotel quarantine scandal. Just days after the breaches of lockdown security were blamed on untrained and inept private security guards, it's now emerged flight attendants and pilots are being recruited to fulfil the same positions. To discuss, I'm joined by One Nation leader Pauline Hanson and Stella Magazine's Sarah Lamarquand. Very good morning to both of you. Pauline, I want to talk to you first because no one is questioning the professionalism of our airline crew. They do an amazing job in the skies. But what is the Andrews government thinking here?
Well, I suppose these people need a job. They've taken aeroplanes out of the sky, so these attendants and pilots, maybe they're more trustworthy than what these other people they've hired and will actually do the job, which these former security guards never did. You know, extras on the job and taking them shopping, well, you know, so they had to find someone. You know, it depends if the pilots and flight attendants want to do the job. They've apparently put their hand up for it. They can't be forced to do it, so, you know, I'm sure.
I don't understand here, though, Pauline, but you look at New South Wales has handled hotel quarantine really well, and one of the reasons why, other states have brought in the military. The military is an option here for the Dan Andrews government. Why is he saying no to it?
Should have been done that way, and what we've heard is that it's possibly the unions have put pressure on Daniel Andrews to actually get other workers to come in and do the job. The military should have brought in this situation. They were offered to him, he didn't take it. You know, I've got no time for Daniel Andrews. I think he's handled the whole situation hopelessly, and I hope that people see that in the next election throw him out on his ear, because he's just a useless premier.
And Sarah, I mean, I think a lot of people in Victoria are feeling this at the moment too. It's, you know, we're seeing the 3,000 residents that have been placed into complete lockdown, and a lot of people saying this morning, yes, drastic action is needed. But how can you do this to people with no warning? I mean, some of them have no food, others are in desperate need of medication.
Oh, absolutely. It's a completely unacceptable situation. I mean, I do sympathise for anyone in power around the country, or around the world for that matter. It has been an extremely difficult few months for all leaders, because they have had to feel their way through this, and the truth is no one really knew whether they were making the right decisions or not. But as Pauline said, when you look at Victoria this morning and you look at these scenes there, it's absolutely clear that the government has not handled things properly. Now, I think it's the immediate lockdown that you talk about there, Ali. How can people be expected to function that way? You think how many people would have been planning, like so many Australians, to pop down to the supermarket on Saturday morning and stock up for the weekend ahead? That we're talking about people that don't have basic supplies in their house. It's an absolute recipe for disaster. I hate to think how things are going to play out there over the coming days.
And you just think of the anguish a lot of those people are feeling, because some of them haven't eaten since Saturday, Pauline.
Oh, come on, Ellie. We've seen food being delivered there. The fact is that a lot of them are drug addicts.
There are 3,000 people, Pauline.
They've actually medication. They're getting their medication. They're alcoholics, so they're being looked after that way. They're actually getting paid extra money. Why are they getting paid extra money? For what? They're not leaving the premises. A lot of these people are from non-English speaking backgrounds. Probably English is their second language, who haven't adhered to the rules of social distancing. They all use a lot of the same laundry. So the fact is, you've got to look at why they're in that situation. Why has the government gone to this high-rise building and shut it down? Possibly because a lot of these people weren't doing the right thing. Is the government worrying about the other areas that are shut down? You know, the people that in their homes, are they able to actually get out and buy the food as well? There has to be a reason why they've targeted this set of blocks, apartment blocks. Ask that question. You know, these people, I saw them taking in truckloads of food to them, all the rest of it. If they're from war-torn countries, which some of these people are, they know what it's like to be in tough conditions. So I'd say, you know, have a look at the facts before you criticise and that aspect. And I think the governments and all these other, you know, these interest groups and everyone will make sure they're well looked after.
Well, they're not so far. I mean, do you have a heart, Pauline?
Australia's not a war-torn.
I have a heart, but I also have common sense. And the fact is that we're sick and tired of people bleeding bloody hearts out there. This is a shutdown because the rest of the state has been locked off from the rest of the country. We don't want the Victorians up here in Queensland, as our Premier has said. Until they clean this up, What do you think is going to happen to those people that can't go back to their jobs, who have actually been isolated themselves? This isn't one area that's been isolated. We've got a lot of Victoria that's been isolated because these people who cannot speak English don't know what the hell to do, and they're
I just don't understand what them not being able to speak English has to do with this, Pauline. I mean, doesn't that then come back on the government that they haven't been able to communicate the message clearly in other languages?
Then why should we? Why should we put everything out in someone else's language? When you come to Australia, as a lot of Australians say, you learn to speak English, and you should have the English language when you actually are taking your citizenship. But governments have been so lax about it. We should not be putting out literature in their own language. Learn to speak English when you come here to this country. That's a big problem that we have in Australia. That we have not.
Sarah, can I get your thoughts on this one? I think we're pretty clear on where Pauline stands. Sarah, your thoughts?
Oh, look, Pauline, this is an absolute nonsense. It's got nothing to do with whether you speak English or not. Australia is not a war-torn country. This is Melbourne. It's a city in our country. This is unacceptable that we are standing by and watching citizens being treated this way. Residents, I don't care where they've come from, that is not the point. We are talking about people that were given no warning, people that clearly are lacking basic supplies, that are being locked up, young children, families. Like I say, it's an absolute recipe for disaster. It's unacceptable, and it's just got nothing to do with what language people speak.
Oh, sorry, we've gone through months of people, the public, being locked up. We've gone through months of people couldn't go to the park, they couldn't go to the gyms, they couldn't go anywhere. The Australian people have been locked up in their homes for ages. What are you going on about now? Because they're locked up in their homes, because they live in apartment buildings, the government's taken in food to them, they get paid extra money, they're getting methadone, they're giving them the drugs, they're looking after their addictions. So what is your problem?
I mean,
we really need to clean up the COVID-19. Make up your mind. You either want to clean up COVID-19 or you don't. And you have to make the tough decisions if we are going to get this country back on track.
And Pauline, everyone agrees that sometimes tough decisions have to be made, but we have to treat people with a little bit of humanity and understand the anguish that exists in those 9 public housing blocks at the moment. We've run out of time.
Common sense and humanity are not contradictory terms.
All right. Thanks for joining us this Monday.
Thank you.
All right. Whew, they're fired up, weren't they?